One of the most important and overlooked aspects of, though, is who was in the meeting room with Witkoff and Putin. China. Beijing quietly sent senior observers, the foreign ministry, Wang Li, to the talks. And their presence fundamentally changes the meaning of this so-called peace process. Why was China there? Because China has become the indispensable power in Russia's wartime survival. It is Russia's single largest energy buyer, its main supplier of critical dual-use components, its effective backstop, and therefore its most important geopolitical shield. As I said, Putin spoke for 5 hours, but he's also there with China, clearly wanting to demonstrate that the war is sustainable and win favor with Beijing. For 4 years, Russia has fought this war and borrowed economic oxygen. And that oxygen is increasingly coming from the supply of China. So while America's envoy meeting Putin makes the headlines, what's more consequential is the dynamic that China is just sitting there, vetting every serious discussion, the strongman dynamic. And it fits this wider global pattern that Trump, Xi, Putin, all three increasingly bypass these summits and operate through these personal bilateral power channels. Trump and Xi, as we know, skipped the G20 summit in Africa. Putin couldn't go, and he probably wouldn't have done anyway. Putin can't travel widely because of this ICC warrant, and therefore he has to ensure that the likes of Xi or even Kim Jong-un, Modi perhaps, come to him and are able and are willing to involve themselves in these talks, which if Putin wasn't remotely threatened by or bothered by, they wouldn't be there. Leaders like Putin want curated stages, not crowded conferences. It's the strongman era where power is performed through the image, the dominance, the leverage and intimidation. It's China attending Moscow's talks because it needs three things. Russia to keep the fighting so the US remains strategically distracted and invested. Russia not to collapse or significantly destabilize because a weak, chaotic Russia is a liability for Beijing. There was a reason China didn't openly support the strategic partnership between North Korea and Russia last year, because it doesn't want attention being brought to the Southeast Asian or East Asian theaters. Beijing doesn't want Putin defeated, but it does not want Putin desperate and reckless, something that he can increasingly become. A cornered Russia would be volatile, and volatility endangers China's own economic and self-interests. So China wasn't therefore just observing, it is assessing. How stable is Putin really? How serious are Trump's people in a future scenario over Taiwan, for example? And whether any of these peace framework aligns and the overall shift of foreign policy under the Trump administration aligns or can be capitalized by Beijing.